Wait, Peter, does it pick up sound?
It picks up sound, yeah. So, our oxygen molecule, how does it enter the body?
Through the lungs because the diaphragm
Okay,
goes
the diaphragm moves. Which way?
down, causing negative pressure to happen in your lungs, which pulls in air.
So, yeah. So our diaphragm moves down. Matilda?
Yeah, that was what I wanted to say.
Diaphragm moves down, and our oxygen molecule then moves through the nose and down through a windpipe, our trachea. No reaction is happening, it's just moving by pure physical force because there's different pressure. Alright, it's now moving down to a bronchi here. What happens then as it enters the lung? Nikolai?
Doesn't it enter into the lungs capillaries and sort of get distributed and then flow towards the heart?
Well, first of all, it goes into the smallest part of the lung. What do we call the small air sacs in the lung? Daniel?
Alveolar.
So in the alveolar here, the alveolar are very small sacs which have extremely high surface area. The alveolic area of your lungs is bigger than this room. Fun fact, if you take a person's lungs out, that person dies. But also you take them out and spread them, the surface area will be immensely big. Here in the alveoli, the air flows in full of the oxygen molecules, and we have blood vessels running next to it. Then something happens. Giorgio.
Doesn't the air get absorbed into the blood?
Yes, and it not only gets absorbed to the blood,
It fuses.
it diffuses into our red blood cells. The red blood cells give up CO2, and then our O2 gets to ride in the hemoglobin in the red blood cell. So each red molecule of hemoglobin carry up to 4 oxygen. Alright, so now we have oxygen flying around here inside the red blood cell. Where do they go from here? They are in the alveolar, in the lung. Where does that blood then go? Daniel?
To the pulmonary vein, and to the right side of the heart.
No, the
Left side of the
left
heart.
side. So our oxygen molecules into the heart here. And now they're on the left side of the heart. What happens to it then? It's just flying around. A lot of speed now, a lot of pressure. It's in the left side of the heart. Where does our left ventricle, which direction does it push the blood? It pushes it into a very specific blood vessel. The big one, yeah? Goes into the aorta here.
One to the brain and the one.
Then some goes to the brain, some goes to the body. This blood cell here goes to the body. So it goes to the aorta, then it goes into what do we call the major blood vessels that takes blood away from the heart. Arteries, the major arteries. The major arteries then branches out, and what we call the very small blood vessels inside muscle tissue. Matilda?
Capillary?
It's the capillary system. In the capillary system, something happens, which is the reason for all this. All this here was just the pre-work. The real thing happens here. Yeah?
Aerobic respiration.
Respiration happens here. What does that mean? What? Yeah? What does respiration mean? Anyone knows? Nikolai?
I have to guess, does the muscle not just take in the oxygen that the blood cells are carrying around to create energy?
So, Yeah, and what part of the cell is burning stuff? Max?
The mitochondria.
The mitochondria is burning. What are they burning? What molecule? Glucose. And it needs
Oxygen.
oxygen. So what happens now? Our oxygen molecule, okay, snap into mitochondria, shake it around, and now it comes out. It's not oxygen anymore. It is something else. Matilda?
Carbon dioxide and water.
Yes. So our happy O2, after being slapped around inside the cell of mitochondria for a while, it comes out now as it has a carbon hitched along for the ride. That CO2 now builds up in the muscle tissue. Where does it go from there? We're working out, we're doing hard work, more CO2 gets produced. It's lowering the pH of our muscle. We need to get rid of it. How do we do it?
The CO2 diffuses back into the red blood cell.
Yeah. So the CO2 goes back into the blood, binds to the hemoglobin, the same way that O2 does. And now it runs through another set of blood vessels. Not the high pressure arteries, but which one, Max?
The veins.
It runs through the veins. And as it runs slowly through the veins, which part of the heart does it go back to?
Well, the other chamber, the left one.
The right one.
Well, the right one.
So it goes into the right atrium, into the right chamber, and where does the heart then push it? We need to go revisit a place. Matilda?
It pushes it back into the lungs.
So we go back into the lungs. So now the CO2 comes running into here. So the blood goes in here and it releases CO2. So our CO2 is now back in the air, in the alveoli, and